AWS reInvent, the last major event of the year. As usual, Amazon took over the Vegas Strip, over 250 announcements, overflowing sessions across multiple hotel properties. Surprise, surprise, Gen AI everywhere. And of course, spending some time with colleagues discussing market impact of what we're hearing from the executives and management teams within AWS. So I'd love to start with overall thoughts. So, Melinda, I'll start with you. We can jump to Paul. Before we get into the specific announcements, what did you think?
Yeah, it's such a huge show. I mean, 60,000 people. And, as with every conference this year, Gen AI was such a big theme. So I was really glad to see the security theme really emphasize the importance of security. So, Adam Lipinski, the CEO, kept talking about security and privacy and emphasized not seeing as customer data. This is such an important theme as we innovate and quickly gain and take advantage of this innovation. Paul, what did you think?
Oh, Melinda, it was great. I mean, I have to echo some of your comments. It was a groundbreaking show for the developer community. Everything that we were talking about, every session I was in, everything that had to do with the cloud and cloud technologies was something about developers. So it was something there. I was there with, like you said, 60,000 of my closest friends. It was a very large event. With a lot of different approaches and ideas and innovation and partnerships that really kind of drove that application monetization landscape. And with regards to developer tools, multi-cloud solutions, cloud optimization, it was really exciting for me to be around like-minded individuals talking about it. And I will say, I know we're going to talk about tools, but one of the most notable things that caught my eye was AWS's fault injection services. Really is designed to help show the resiliency of those applications in multi-region, multi-available zones and environments, so that you can simulate power failures or just interruptions across connectivity and really show how those applications can continue to perform. But Mike, there was a lot there. What about you? What were your thoughts on the Gen AI pitch?
Before we jump to the AI stuff, I want to hit on a few announcements that I'd say weren't specific to Gen AI, but again, super impactful. And I know everybody was really excited about. First, Amazon S3 Express One Zone. We know millions of customers use S3. AWS pretty much set the gold standard here for cloud object storage. And this announcement was really continuing that leadership position. And it's about introducing a new level of support for the most performance intensive apps. So that's training, that's HPC, that's financial modeling. And this is a win for everyone. So it's faster data access, ultra low latency, millions of requests per second. And it's all while keeping costs in check. So I thought that was a pretty big deal. On the data management front, again, loads of announcements. I'd argue the biggest for me was the expansion of zero ETL integrations to Redshift, Aurora Postgres, RDS for MySQL, DynamoDB, and then there was a zero ETL from DynamoDB to OpenSearch. So it's no secret that Amazon wants orgs to experience a zero ETL future. They highlighted this last year, continued to emphasize it this year. It's really about making it easier for customers to connect data and remove challenges that come with building, and more importantly, maintaining data pipelines. So this lets AWS take on that burden, right? Let them worry about provisioning, managing pipelines. And the big question for me that I'd love AWS to answer: what about the T in ETL, right? What about enabling more efficient transformations? And look, I see a future where AWS starts addressing that area more too. Now, Paul, I'm going to come back to you. A big component of getting data into Redshift, it's about enabling scalability, high performance, reliability of modern data-driven apps. And on that front, I know there were some announcements on Code Catalyst, right? Can you talk a little about that?
Yeah, absolutely, Mike. When you look at everything you just talked about, the applications that feed that data pipelines and all the data sets that are behind it, the code Amazon Code Catalyst really was kind of highlighted here to introduce Gen AI powered Amazon Q, which is in preview. But what this developer tool allows for is just that seamless integration and transition from ideation to full tested, merge ready running code that uses natural language input. So really cool stuff, actually. This approach is really innovative because it drastically reduces the developer lifecycle, right? And also it makes it more accessible for developers to bring their ideas to fruition. And basically by catering to the needs of developers and organizations, Amazon Code Catalyst really introduced those custom blueprints and they also have a new enterprise tier. And so when we look at this, these enhancements not only provide the developers more flexibilities in tailoring solutions for their really specific needs that they have, but also offer project lifecycle management throughout their entire new enterprise pricing tier as well. So there's a comprehensive suite that really has developers tools and on the AWS platform that continue to evolve and really address those ever-changing demands of modern software development.
Yeah, I love all that. Now, all right, let's get started on Gen AI. I hope everybody has a few hours to spend with us here. No, I'm just kidding, but it's going to sound crazy because it's been what, just a few months, but AWS was just a bit behind their top competitors when it came to Gen AI, and then based on all the announcements that we just saw at reInvent, I think they've caught up. And as expected, there was a big focus pushing a complete stack to support Gen AI with that foundational infrastructure layer for model training and inference. There's the middle layer, right, where it's about enabling businesses to incorporate Gen AI into processes and products in a flexible and reliable way. And then there's the top layer, right, focused on building modern apps that leverage all the services that are underneath it. Now, when I hear full stack, of course, I think about tightly integrated services and solutions, but I very quickly gravitate towards comprehensive security across all of those layers. Now, Melinda, I know AWS is a security specific event in Reinforce that you attended, but what
Mhm.
did you hear on the security front at reInvent?
Yeah, I think you're right. They really emphasize security at every layer, and security is a competitive differentiator for the cloud service providers. So they had a slew of updates. Again, they have the separate security show, but they still had a lot of updates to the Amazon security offerings and how they're building security in at various levels of the stack. And I can't cover all of them, but I want to talk about a few key themes that I saw and kind of try to summarize the announcements. There'll be a lot more details in the blog, but the key thing I think is that we have to realize that more people are going to migrate to the cloud for all of these benefits, to be able to do Gen AI, to be able to develop faster. So when we have these benefits of increased productivity, we're going to have that increase to the move to the cloud. And you have to have efforts for security guardrails, responsible AI. Those are so important. So Gen AI is helping with faster migration. Mike, you talked about zero ETL migration. So they're talking about migrating thousands of applications across like 2 days, and you have these multiplier effects for faster development. So those security guardrails and built-in security are so important. Getting into some nitty-gritty kind of announcements. So there were a lot of enhancements for AWS detection and response services. So, they have a suite of services to enhance cloud posture and streamline SecOps. So it's all centralized with Security Hub. So you can automate security checks and centralize security alerts. You can go in and investigate with Amazon Detective and Amazon Security Lake. For guard duty, they really expanded capabilities. So they're using a lot of ML techniques to detect suspicious logins with findings that are enriched with contextual data. And it's also using threat intelligence from integrations with its partners. So integrations with CrowdStrike and Proofpoint, as well as their internal data. There's also a lot of runtime monitoring, just coming off of KubeCon a few weeks ago with Paul. We talked about the importance of observability and monitoring at various layers. So you've got monitoring across ECS containers that are running. You've got Fargate in public preview. You have EC2 runtime monitoring. So full visibility across environments with the information streaming back to guard duty, and EKS runtime monitoring where it's turned on and fully managed. So you get that complete coverage to detect threats at different layers of Kubernetes. And then for vulnerability management, there were updates to Amazon Inspector, so automated vulnerability management service to scan your workloads. They announced Amazon Inspector integration with CI/CD tools to tie that into development. And I also just want to call out that in Security Hub, there were some neat new dashboards and views to help security report to the executives and the boards, just showing how important security is, and those dashboards to make sure that as all these things are happening, you can report on your security posture, that you're effectively managing risk, but also doing your best to respond quickly when there are threats and attacks. Preventative, and also making sure you can respond quickly as things will inevitably happen.
Awesome. Yeah. So infrastructure Bedrock, two big themes. They announced two next gen chips, Graviton 4 and Trainium 2, really about performance and energy efficiency. Of course, right now it's so much about accessibility of hardware. And for AWS, these announcements are really helping offer customers flexibility and choice. And that flexibility extends to enabling customers to build and customize their own models to create unique experiences for their customers. So there were a handful of new capabilities associated with SageMaker to help accelerate building, training, and deployment of models. Two of the specific announcements I really liked, SageMaker Hyperpods. This is helping reduce the time to training foundation models and making it far more efficient to manage across distributed clusters. And then there were some inference optimizations to help reduce deployment costs, which is a big deal. And that's really done by delivering multiple models within the same instance. Bedrock, a ton of new capabilities here. I loved seeing everything. A few that stuck out to me. First, Amazon guardrails. This is really about helping orgs leverage Gen AI in a responsible way. So they're empowering customers to do things like easily configure content filtering or helping them redact certain information from responses. They touched on knowledge bases for Bedrock, and this is really about securely connecting models in Bedrock to your company data. This is where retrieval augmented generation comes in. The RAG topic definitely got brought up a bunch, really around vector searches. So there were some new vector search capabilities that really came out across a bunch of AWS database services. There were agents for Bedrock to help accelerate Gen AI development by orchestrating multi-step tasks. And then flexibility, 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 right? AWS knows there isn't a single golden model to solve every problem. So it's really about offering customers choice. They talked about availability of Claude 2.1 and Llama 2 and Bedrock, but also Titan, Amazon Titan models with capabilities like the Titan image generator that comes with invisible tamper-resistant watermarks or model evaluation in Bedrock that makes selecting the right model for your use case faster and easier. So look, I could talk about these capabilities for hours, truly, but I want to keep moving up the stack. And that's where, Paul, I think you're going to come in here, right? Let's hear from you on the application front, specifically the two big ones, right? Amazon Q and Code Whisperer.
Yeah, Mike, absolutely. Like really, when I saw this for the developers or the modern development kind of approaches, they're looking at creating new modernized approaches. The IDE extensions for AWS Application Composer was really, really interesting to me, right? It really allowed for that seamless integration for the integrated development environment or the IDE, allowing for the developers to really visualize that build modern application and iterate across development across infrastructure as code as well, right? And they can use the infrastructure as code templates built with Amazon Code Whisperer, which was really a huge advancement here because it really helps with compliance and governance and regulations as well. But the inclusion of AI generated infrastructure as code really helped accelerate the development process, making it more intuitive and efficient as well. And in the ever changing world, it's really, really challenging. As well. So Amazon Q streamlining application modernization is really one of the things that stood out to me as a major announcement at reInvent, but it also aims to, drive those capabilities to design to simplify the upgrading and modernization of existing code, but it also promises to be a game changer for developers, offering an efficient and seamless path to keeping those applications up to date with the latest technologies. And this is in complete alignment with our, research and enterprise strategy group research that we just put out, highlighting that delivering faster, accurate code is highly desirable for many, many organizations. Cool stuff, Mike. But yeah, definitely lots to talk about here.
Yeah, and again, Amazon Q, right? That's their entry into this intelligent assistant space. It's been within QuickSight for a little time now, but this is really extending it across the AWS services to really empower all those different stakeholders, from data engineers to developers to business users, right? So I know we missed plenty of announcements here. It was really like drinking from a fire hose for a few days, right? But we're just seeing a new level of AWS maturity and acceleration with that continued emphasis on simplicity, efficiency, performance, cost savings, and really reliability. So first, thank you both. Glad we could hop on and chat through all this. Thanks to the listeners. Just stay tuned for next year, right? Because there's going to be more from Enterprise Strategy Group doing these types of recaps on all the major events.